Hey, my name is Ember, and this is Space Girl Thoughts, May 16th. Today I wanted to talk a bit about the commodification of conversation. I came to think a little bit about this when I sort of stopped to ask this question that I definitely ask myself at least once a year is, why do I watch so much YouTube? And why do I feel so I'm not motivated to make YouTube videos in response? There's this thing that I consume a lot of, that I spend a lot of my time thinking about, maybe even talking with some people in private Discord channels or something, but I don't contribute back in a way that feels meaningful to me. I feel like this is definitely a shifting of the landscape compared to, how YouTube started, when there were the things like video responses, people who had small enough channels that they, were more reliant on people getting to know them personally through the comments or through descriptions or something. Or ratings, and maybe even people doing reviews or parodies of other people's work, no considerations of copyright or all that fun stuff. And thinking about now how some of the most popular stuff that is on YouTube is educational and entertaining all at the same time. Maybe not always educational, but if there's something I have noticed, there is this just focus on creating something that's entertaining and still also provides a secondary emotion, such as fear if you're ranting about something, or anger, maybe support and love if you're gushing about something that you love, or you're providing a wonderful review of this awesome new game that just came out. Maybe surprise or sort of anticipation if there's an unboxing. There's just this big long string of the way that people talk about stuff right now seems like it's in service of that content pipeline that the social media overlords have created for us. And I've never really felt like I'm super into participating with it, because I realize that I'm not really an entertainer. I don't like to entertain people as my thing. I like to have conversations with people. I like to have two-way streets of communication, teaching people, getting to learn stuff myself. To me, that's what drives the stuff that I watch, and the stuff that I think about is just if something teaches me something interesting, if it's another look at something that gets me to reflect about how maybe a piece of forgotten media now relates to our current situation in the world, that kind of fun stuff. So, and just realizing conversation to me is really important. But I don't have conversations by making super long YouTube video essays. There's nothing wrong with super long video essays, but they're definitely this stance of this is what I have to say, and this is me contributing to a conversation, or this is how I've put all the pieces together, and this is my take on the situation. But it's, maybe they encourage comments, maybe they make a second video as a response to comments on the original. Maybe there's a sequel, or it starts a style that then resonates through follow-up videos. But it's not quite like a two-way direct conversation with somebody. It's still in many ways pretty general, and at the end of the day, still trying to entertain somewhat. I find that the most motivated video creators are those who are looking to entertain people and do that on a regular basis. And for me, that's just not it. But I've watched YouTube for so long that it feels like I should somehow have that gene to entertain people just from osmosis. Maybe that's how it happens for some people, but it's, I'd rather just kind of log on to Discord and have a cool chat about something with other people, or share a video with somebody and then talk about it afterwards, or share an image with somebody that provokes interesting discussion, what value do microgenres have in our current state of listening to music? Why do we define microgenres the way that they are? And then having a conversation about it. To me, the value is not in how many people I can entertain at one time, or how many interesting thoughts I can present about a certain subject, but rather just, can I have a cool conversation about it? Can I get to know somebody better because of something interesting that I brought up, or that they've brought up, that I now want to talk about? I can't really quantify that kind of conversational, going on that I like to go and do during my free time. But it's very different if you've got maybe 20 video essays on your favorite video games, and some of the best received ones have millions of views and tons of people who have started their own discussions or comments or video responses on it. You know, that is kind of a conversation starter for sure. But in terms of like how I feel like I want to personally impact other people when I talk and have conversations, or if I want to learn something from them, or if they are trying to learn something from me, overall, I don't know. I'd rather keep it small. I'm not really one to try to quantify it in any way whatsoever. Um, but of course, social media algorithms, the internet, always chasing after like views and likes and comments, followers, trying not to get ratioed by the kids. You know, it is still a numbers game in a lot of ways, and the algorithm is designed to promote content that is able to produce those numbers pretty regularly. And to me, that always feels kind of disingenuous. Like it's not really trying to create the conversation so much as it is trying to play into a system that has been designed to make the most ad revenue out of people trying to have conversations. That's kind of my big critique, at least, of the current way that we like produce and then consume content that is made to entertain us and talk about a very specific subject or produce a very specific emotion associated with that subject and under the guise of entertainment, rather than something that's like completely raw, like here are my feelings, here are your feelings, let's talk about that. Now let's not share this with the entire world and just have this moment between you and I where we can have this interesting conversation where we can share our ideas about something and sort of, you know, connect in a way that we can't do with any other person. If I were to somehow take all the conversations that I've had on Discord that have meant the most to me and then make that public, like to me, that ruins the trust that I put in that person to share their feelings with me. And I feel like that ruins my image too. Like, I don't want to start making people think that at random I'm going to be posting what they tell me in private to the public world just so I can get like more numbers on it, so I can start quantifying the conversations that I have. It feels like it's a huge trade-off between what other people are able to see of the stuff that you do versus how much that individual act like means to you when it is under the guise of it being so private, of being so personal. Similarly, like, you know, I'm a teacher. I've done tutoring work. I've done one-on-one teaching. I've done classroom teaching. I've written all sorts of tutorials and documentation and guides and all that stuff. If I'm like one-on-one tutoring with somebody, you know, I get to understand their backstory, what their preliminary knowledge is. I don't have to suddenly introduce arithmetic if I'm already talking to like an engineer, probably. So we can sort of skip that part of the conversation, but then get to the meat of what they're asking about. Like, if they don't understand how graphics processing works, then, you know, that's somewhere we can start. But if I make that conversation public to try and teach like a lot of people on a YouTube video that gets hundreds of thousands of views, and I bring up arithmetic as like if I make a mini lesson about it, or if I go on an extended tangent about how it relates and then some resources where to find it, that kind of breaks the flow for people who already kind of knew what arithmetic was. Maybe it's not a huge annoyance, but it still gets in the way a bit. Or alternatively, I don't mention arithmetic, and then I get a bunch of people who didn't have that preliminary knowledge finding it difficult to keep up with the lesson because, you know, of course, I didn't cater to their background. And that just kind of is, in my mind, that is inherent to how you talk to other people and how you produce something to help other people. Just inherently, you have to take into account their background, where they're coming from, their lived experiences, and what they've already done, and what you think, like what they want out of you and what you can give to them, that sort of thing. It's a much more personal affair at all times. And there's just so many ways where making that kind of thing public, making it quantifiable in terms of views or how many videos on a certain topic you can do, just kind of gets in the way. I've always thought about this, like, you know, like I said earlier at the beginning, I've asked this question to myself maybe every year, why I don't make so many YouTube videos if I watch so many YouTube videos. End of the day, I just don't care. Like, I'd rather talk to somebody. I'd rather see the impact that I'm having on them if they're trying to learn something. if we're trying to connect over something or work through something together, I'd rather have that personal connection. To me, that value is so much more like intimate and meaningful, and putting in the effort to do it in a public manner, it can be nice. It's a nice challenge, but it's not what I'm after. I'm not an entertainer. And I find that interesting that I still feel pressured to put out something like regular YouTube videos or edutainment content on YouTube because of the surrounding landscape that I'm in. Makes me kind of forget why, where I started and what I'm in it for, really. Anyway, those were my thoughts about sort of, commodification of conversation. Now, I'm not saying this to boost engagement numbers because, again, I'm keeping this just as a chill, whatever, private kind of thing. Feel free to talk about your experiences if you've had anything similar to this. And maybe you'll see me again sometime. Take care.